safe space ASMR podcast where we talk about all things spirituality, personal development, and so much more, helping you align your mind, body, and spirit to live your most authentic life. Sometimes we whisper, sometimes we speak, but every time we expand, grow, and relax. So, grab a drink, sit back and relax. I have my drink right here. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see that I have a little cover over it to keep it hot because I make it and then I don't start filming right away, but I haven't tried it yet. I have a peppermint mocha tea, and if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, still go grab a drink. We're vibing, we're relaxing, and this is episode 2, and today we are going to talk about the ego thoughts, overthinking, that illusion of thought. And I have credentials because I am a big overthinker. Although I actually have worked on this a bit, especially recently, I've been pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, which kind of has been very healing for me because I've been working past thought, working past my ego, and finding my potential outside of thought. So I'm gonna take a sip and try it because I haven't tried this drink yet. It's good. It's supposed to relax me. I've been getting into tea, and wow, that's actually really good. Peppermint mocha. Okay. So, let's talk about the ego. I've talked about this so many times because, this very thing is the thing that has gotten me into my spiritual awakening. And what's crazy, right before I'm filming this, right before this episode, I literally was just so inspired talking to my friends and my boyfriend about this epiphany I just had 30 minutes ago. I just had an epiphany on thought and emotions, and we're gonna dive into thought but also intuition and what's true. So I'll just dive right into saying that you are not your thoughts. Those stories in your head, those thoughts in your head about yourself is not you. Like what it's telling you, the dialogue in your head, that is not you. Many times we start overthinking and we either feel guilt from the thoughts or we feel shame from the thoughts. We feel hurt from the thoughts. We get sucked and consumed by the thoughts that we're consuming more than we're even producing, which explains that the subconscious mind is 95% in control of your life. And I don't know if you knew that, but the subconscious mind is your beliefs, your dreams, your autonomous nervous system, your bodily functions, the thing that's driving your body memory, your heartbeat, and also driving the story that you have in your mind. Those reoccurring thoughts, the thoughts about the past, any memories that you may have. They say that we're programmed from ages 0 to 7. Our identity about ourselves, our identity in the world, what we think about the world, our beliefs about money or family or personal relationships or the world, we're programmed from ages 0 to 7, which means we're very outdated. And not only that, I'll explain in a moment. Let me set my drink down. But we're very outdated. Our ego, our mind, outdated. And we need to update it. So I'm here to give you an update. Stay tuned also for next week where I'm going to be talking about the law of attraction and manifestation, because I thought it was appropriate to create this episode first because in order to manifest we need to move past thought. So let's dive into the thoughts. I mean, we're already like a few minutes in and we didn't even really dive deep into it, but your subconscious mind is programmed from ages 0 to 7. Your brain is like a sponge. Kids are so imaginative and they don't know anything about the world, and they constantly ask why does this happen, oh, why does it work like that, or they have all this curiosity and imagination. They have imaginary friends and they play pretend all the time because their brain is open to hypnotism, as in you give them a suggestion and they believe it because they don't know much about the world. As adults, we learned about it, we at least we think we know the world. But we have all these neurotransmitters that are programmed already, and we can still learn and unlearn, but we mostly have our beliefs about the world programmed in our subconscious mind, and it gets harder to unprogram and reprogram. But from ages 0 to 7, you're very susceptible. It's very easy because you don't have those neural networks yet. And so, whatever you see in your household, if your parents are arguing and their relationship is hard, you might form the belief relationships are hard. And to your mind, that's what you mirror. That becomes your truth, even though it's hard to conceptualize and understand. The subconscious mind sees it, and later on in life will have the belief that relationships are hard. If they're arguing about money, money is hard to make. If they tell you that you're not good at this or not good at that, you can't do that, that's impossible. All of these beliefs are getting programmed within the subconscious mind, and we're just believing and accepting this truth. And you know what, when we're younger, we don't have the ability to question it, because we just accept it. So we accept the reality because we can't really do anything about it, and we don't have the intellect to be able to say, no, that's not true, etc. Unless our parents told us, that things aren't true. But we mirror our environment, okay? And that becomes the subconscious mind. You learn so much. You learn language from ages 0 to 7. And although maybe it's not the best, you get better, of course, in school, and you learn new things. But ages 0 to 7, you learn how to walk. You learn how to do so many things. Just this natural memory from that age, and the memory of what you saw. And to this day, you might not even remember some things from ages 0 to 7, but that's because it's stored deep within the subconscious mind. But you actually might have beliefs that you don't really know why you believe them. Well, my goal for you is to take a look back at what happened when you were younger. Inner child work, that is something that could be very healing for you. But anyway, another analogy that I always like to think about with the mind is, and this was like the spark to my spiritual awakening. I'm actually going to give 2 analogies, but the first one is thoughts are like clouds in the sky, and this is from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. But thoughts are like clouds in the sky. Some days it's so cloudy, some days it's clear, some days, they pop up, but then it gets clear. Thoughts, they come and they go, just like clouds. But the beautiful blue sky behind it, that clearness, is the essence of your being. That's your soul, that's your intuition, that's your higher self, that's your true essence. And the thoughts are just passing by, but it's not really you. You're the beautiful blue sky behind it, the awareness of it. And Eckhart Tolle gave this, I know some people say Toll or Tolle, I don't know, I say Tolle, but he also gave this analogy because he was sitting on a park bench and thought, I hate myself, and had the realization that if I hate myself, who is hating what? What is self and what is I? And he had this realization of separation. What is aware of the self? Who hates who? Think about that. I hate myself. Well, then there must be 2 of me, and don't get fixated on language, because I know some people can come at it with rationality of, but that's just language. But if you really take a look at it, you're aware of your thoughts. Your whole self isn't your thought. You're aware of the thought. And the second analogy refers to the ego, which the ego, in my perception of it, is where the thoughts arise. What are your dominant thoughts? Fear-based thoughts of the future. Nostalgic, sad thoughts about the past. Fear of the future. Fear of rejection. Fear of, what might happen in the future. Fear of loss. Fear of scarcity. Our dominant thoughts that keep coming up is the program of the subconscious mind. We rarely think new thoughts. I don't know the actual scientific fact, but I believe that we have about 60,000 thoughts in a day, and most of them are the same. We're mostly thinking the same. And the reason for that is because our brain is kind of on this autopilot. You wake up, you do the same thing. You believe the same thing. You live the same life. You do the same thing and you think the same thing. You think the same way about life. Because your brain's just in this survival mode. Time flies and you realize, where has it been? Or you drive to work and you get there and realize, wow, I don't even remember driving. Because it's just this autopilot. If you've done it so many times, you just know how to do it. That's life. I mean, it's not life, but when you're unconscious and not really taking control of that 5% of conscious thought and making it more, you're kind of just getting consumed by the thoughts rather than producing new thoughts. Like, think about it. How many times do you get sucked into a thought and you're not really producing, you're just getting sucked into it, and then you think you're producing when really you're just building on that one thought because you were already consumed by it. And that is the definition of overthinking. Let me get into the second analogy explaining the ego. So let's jump back to the caveman days when it was all about survival of the fittest. The caveman, he's ready. He wants to go out and get some food and hunt for food. Okay, so he's going out there, ready for his feast, and he sees another caveman with his hands behind his back, and he thinks, he's about to kill me because we're both fighting for the same thing. We need to provide for our families. Both of the cavemen need this food, and so it's competition because both of them feel as if they are the superior ones that deserve the food, and they're going to fight in order to get it. Naturally, with the hands behind the back specifically, this was like a charisma thing that I learned, because if you don't show your hands subconsciously, because we're a little bit outdated within our subconscious mind and nervous system, but we kind of don't trust people when their hands aren't shown. So anyway, this caveman sees another caveman and thinks he has a weapon. He's about to kill me. Your body, the caveman goes in fight or flight, ready to fight for this food or flight, whatever the choice may be. But it's kind of like our mind. But in this modern day age, we're not really technically fighting for survival physically, but rather survival of our mind, survival of pride, ego. We don't want to get embarrassed. We don't want to get rejected. We don't want to not get what we want. We want to be the best. We care what people think. And, people have these online little wars of, someone says a hate comment, for example, your body goes into this fight or flight adrenaline. So our mind can get embarrassed or shamed or, feel some type of way when it doesn't feel. The ego, just at the end of the day, is a little bit selfish. It just wants what it wants. All of our egos have this natural way of, and I'm not saying all because you can really reprogram your mind, and I'm not hating fully on the ego because you can also work with it. It can be your friend. But if you have been unconscious of it up until this point, the ego kind of just wants what it wants for itself. And although you might care about other people and love other people, you also care about yourself, of course, but you don't want to get rejected or whatever the case may be. You don't want to get heartbroken. You don't want, you want to survive, and not physically. Because nowadays, I mean, not in every case, but nowadays, physically, if you live in a home and, you're safe most of the time, I would say. I mean, it depends, of course, but if you're watching this, you're probably, physically safe right now, But your mind still can go easily tap into a fight or flight just based on thought. If you have an anxiety, fear-based thought of the future, you're afraid of some event based on imaginative thought, your body responds in this fight or flight way based on imagination, projected fear into the future, which I talked about in my last episode. Or your body can respond based on past embarrassment, past whatever, past heartbreak, and you have this program of your mind from your past, and you project into the future based on past. So your mind and the thoughts and the ego live on this time construct, and it doesn't live in this present moment. Personally, I have fears of the future. I project things, all these what ifs scenarios, and I find myself often in this loop of projected fear into the future. Stupid fears, irrational fears, and not that they're not valid, of course they're valid, but it's just mostly irrational, and I can create this state of anxiety, and my mind doesn't like the unknown, so I try to control things, as in I need to know, if there's plans or whatever. I need to know what it's gonna be like. I need to know the details. I need to know all the details in order to be in this illusion of control. Because my mind is not like the unknown, and a lot of minds don't. But the ego is on this be prepared state of consciousness, and it just wants to survive. So we do need to be kind to it, because all it's really trying to do is keep you alive in the sense of your pride, your concept of self, your, ego. That's all I like to describe it as, just your ego. Everyone says, oh, he has an ego, oh, they have an ego. Like, your mind just wants to stay identified with the sense of self that other people will be happy with, pleased with. It doesn't want to get hurt. It doesn't want to get uncomfortable or have to fight for its life. And how I like to really separate the mind and, who you truly are is who you truly are. Like I said, the beautiful blue sky behind it is like this ball of light, this awareness, and your thoughts in the mind. It can think about all these things: food, the past, jealousy, anger, happiness, shame, fear, loss, pain, pleasure, whatever. And the awareness ball of light goes over each and every single one of them. We always have thoughts popping up in our mind, and the awareness is simply just there watching them. But overthinking happens when we latch onto a thought. We latch onto it and we repeat it. I heard this thing that emotions only last 90 seconds, but we extend an emotion because we get pulled into it, and we stay recharging it, we stay thinking about it, we stay, fueling it with a lot of power and thoughts and emotion behind it. When if we were just so aware of the thoughts arising and we laughed at them more and we detached from them, thoughts really won't control you anymore. Those anxious thoughts really won't control you anymore. And this kind of brings me into my epiphany that I had about, right before this episode, that love is the only real thing. Love, okay? And every other emotion, fear, any other negative emotion, specifically fear, anger, jealousy, shame, guilt, anxiety, whatever, it is all fake. And listen, hey, I know you might be thinking, what do you mean? Like, your emotions are valid, and they're valid because they're real to you. You do feel them when you really feel them. But I was thinking about it, and you may disagree, and that's okay. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. But every negative emotion, if you think about it, really dive your head into this, where does it stem from? It does not stem from your heart. It doesn't stem from your body. And the reason why I had this thought was because I'm reading this book right now called The Courage to be Disliked, and it's about this student who talks to this philosopher. The student believes people can't change, and just has negative beliefs about people, and they are the way that they are because of just a victim mentality. And the philosopher, they have a dialogue, they have a conversation between them two, and that's the book. And so the student said that he went into this restaurant and the waiter accidentally spilled a drink on him, and so the student stood up and started shouting, and he told the philosopher he's not usually the type of person that shouts, but the waiter just made him so mad, so it was his fault because he just made him so angry. And the philosopher said, your anger wasn't practically real. You pulled up the toll of anger to fulfill a purpose that you had, and the purpose that you had was to overpower the waiter, to make him feel stupid, to make him feel embarrassed, and to make him feel, shameful for what he did about spilling the drink on him. He had a moment before the incident. He had a space of, a choice when the drink got spilled on him, and then the time where he had that anger. There was a choice whether to respond or to react. And yeah, maybe he didn't want his shirt to get wet and whatever, but what happened was he pulled up a toll of emotion in order to fulfill a purpose, to overcompensate, to make the waiter give him something for free. And think about this. I'm going to give another example because that might sound not resonant and that might sound sociopathic, like using emotion to manipulate as if it is a tool, but no, emotions are valid. I know how it may sound, but we're just really sink this in, because love is real. Love really is real. Okay, that's what I want you to really take away from this, and we'll talk about the intuition, and love and inner knowing. But let's say another example that was in the book. There was this mom who got in a fight with her child and was yelling at the child, and then the phone rang and she went over and she picked up the phone and she was like, hello, and talked so kindly to the person on the phone. They had about a 5-minute conversation where she was just very nice, and then the phone call was done. She hung it up and snapped right back into yelling at the child. Okay, so she was kind on the phone, and then when she went to the child, she just started yelling again. Came from that angry sense of self. If she could have, if emotion was there and it was like truly really there, then she wouldn't be able to put on this front on the phone call, But because she was talking to her child in this shouting voice, she pulled up the toll of anger in order to make the child learn a lesson, for example, or learn something, or I don't know, make the child feel stupid for what the child did. But because she was able to flip it off and flip it back on based on the circumstance, that's the book's point of view, that emotions are tools. But I am not even talking about, love, because I truly don't believe that love is a tool. And you might not resonate that, anger and frustration is a tool and not really a real emotion, because yes, you can feel it. It is valid because, people, I myself, I feel anger, and I'm like confused still on this. I just learned it about, the epiphany was about an hour ago. So I would have to dive deeper into this, and I'm sorry I'm giving you this information without me fully being able to say, like, frustration isn't fully real. I don't mean it's not real, but I thought on it, and the other day, for example, I'll give my vulnerable example. I went downstairs, I woke up, and I was fine, and then I went downstairs and I was in a bad mood all of a sudden. But I looked back on it after this epiphany, and I thought, because the philosopher describes it as these, negative emotions are only tools to fulfill some type of purpose, I thought on it, and I thought, was I actually in a bad mood? And then I realized I really don't think I was feeling in a bad mood. I think I didn't want to talk to anyone, and so I pulled up the tool of frustration, of seeming in a bad mood, of seeming closed off. I don't believe that not wanting to talk to anyone is a good or bad thing. I think it's a very neutral thing. You either just don't want to talk, or, but I think I pulled up this tool of frustration, of feeling closed off, of like not grumpiness, but just like, this energy of being closed off and not in the mood, I exaggerated it because I think my purpose was to not talk to anyone and to give off that energy to not talk to anyone. And that makes me sound like such a horrible person, but we're all human. But so I'm thinking back on all my negative emotions. Sadness, for example. Every time I've been sad, it has been from thought. Overthinking of the future, overthinking of the past, nostalgic energy, past. Every time I've been, let's say, jealous, thought. I wish I had that, I wish I looked like that, thought. Because my ego wasn't getting what it wanted, as in, I need to be something other than I am. Thought. Every negative emotion stems from thought. Love stems from the heart. Love and peace come from the heart. Even passion can come from the heart, from the soul. But every negative emotion feels so artificially charged by thought. All this programming. And if you're listening to this and you're not resonating at all, because I did just think about, what about loss of love? You lose someone and your heart literally hurts. You have that pain in your heart, a heartbreak, etc. And I do want to say that, frustration, heartbreak, all of your negative emotions, I do want to validate you, okay? Because they are real. I'm not saying they're not real. I'm just saying where are they stemming from? And I'm trying to pick what's stemming from what and what is truly real, or what's there to fulfill a purpose. I think anger sometimes is there to, fulfill some type of purpose. If we get angry at someone and we're very reactive, or we give hate, that's obviously to fulfill some type of purpose. Let's say haters, they spread hate all the time, they can comment on someone's thing and say, oh my god, I hate this. That is, are they really angry? They could be angry, but they could also just be trying to fulfill some type of purpose and making the other person feel low, bringing them down in order to give them a sense of lifting up. But that's just all from their ego. It's not really a full-on body emotion. And I know sometimes also people might think, oh, but when I get angry, I actually feel it in my heart. I feel chest pain or, anxiety. But, and I've had anxiety, I've had panic attacks last year, a bit of them, and they have been so real. My feet get cold, my heart starts racing, I'm feeling sick, I am feeling this emotion of panic. But I realized, when the heart closes off, when you feel that pressure in your chest, I think it's just because you're getting more pulled away from the essence of this present moment and the truth of what actually is, and you're closing your heart, closing that love, and you're really moving into thought. Every time I had anxiety, it was thought, thought, thought. And listen, you're not your thoughts, so that's a great thing. We can really disidentify and step into our true, authentic self and our intuition and really experience joy every single day. We can transmute energy. I can talk about that in another episode maybe, but although I love to talk about everything right now, I decided to make my episodes 45 minutes or less, so we don't have too much time. But thought is this, illusion, because really, if you're thinking about the future doesn't exist and never will, because the only thing that exists is this constant present, this constant. And what else is constant? Your awareness. Thought is not constant. Thought is appearing and it's going, appearing, going. Yeah, it may be happening all the time, but the constant is this consciousness and this awareness of thought. Thought changes. It fluctuates. And the future, what you think of the future, changes and fluctuates too because of thought. This present moment is the only real thing that exists, this stillness. And that's the same with your awareness. This is where your intuition is in this present moment. And I want you to start thinking through your eyes. When you get trapped in your head, think through your eyes. Examine your surroundings. How does it feel? How does it smell? How does it look? And really step back into this present moment to silence the mind past doesn't exist either. It's literally not there. It's gone. It is not there. It is only in your mind through the programming. And the programming likes to project into the future any fear. You think your past equals the future. Well, I'm here to tell you it doesn't. Because once you move past thought, you can realize, I can create, I can produce thought, I can produce emotion, I can create my life, because past doesn't equal future, and thought isn't real. Thought isn't me. So if you think you don't have a lot of potential, if you think thoughts of, oh, I'm so not worthy of this and that, those thoughts, like, it is from the past. It is either from social media, from, programming of, if you got bullied, someone told me, I'm boring, and then for the longest time I carried this belief that, oh, I'm boring, so I'm not good enough for YouTube, and I made assumptions based on one experience in the past. We take things and we take them out of hand. That's what our mind likes to do, because it likes to protect itself. It likes to stay alive. So any fear of future mostly sometimes comes from fear of past, and fear of what other people might think, fear of, the past repeating itself. And so we close off, we move away from love, we move away from intuition, we move away from our inner child, and we stay in thought, identifying with thought, living our reality through thought, thinking that these thoughts about that you're not capable and not worthy and not powerful, that's real and you think that's you, but I'm here to tell you it's not. Intuition and inner knowing is presence, right? It's that lightness, that trust, that gut feeling, that calm, quiet knowingness. And thought is that chaos. It's the past, it's the future. It's talking you in or out of situations. It's questioning yourself. It's a heavy feeling of overwhelm. Anything that feels light is probably and most likely truth. Anything that feels heavy is most likely just thought, illusion, fear. And fear is not real. And when I say that, I'm not saying your fear is not real, get over it. I'm not coming from that. But I'm here to encourage you and guide you to separate yourself from the fear and the thoughts and the overwhelm in your mind and the chaos in your mind. And I'm here to tell you to disidentify with it. And you might be resistant towards this because your ego might not like it. I know, God knows, my ego still to this day struggles with it, of thinking, oh, but, trying to defend the ego to keep it alive, that's another thing, defensiveness, because you don't want to be wrong. I'm not saying, once again, that you're wrong, but when we hold these identities, we defend the identities even if we don't like it. I have defended that I'm just a slow grower. I don't grow fast on YouTube because you know why? I'm not good enough. I need to be better. I can't do more than what I'm doing now because I'm already trying my best. Like, whatever. I defend all these beliefs that I don't want. That, money, it is hard to find me. It doesn't find me well because it never really has. And it's just like not that possible for me because I'm not good enough, The stories, the beliefs, the thoughts. Your mind will sit here and defend something that you don't even like. So why defend it? That light feeling is the truth. If you want something, identify with that. If you want to not be your thoughts, identify with that. I'm more than my thoughts. I'm more than these clouds in the sky. I'm more than the cloudy days. I'm more than my past. My past doesn't even exist. Who's that? My future. What I think I'm capable of achieving. Oh yeah, well, I'm gonna 10x it. Because I'm capable of so much more and you know how to accomplish it. Step into this present moment. Listen to your intuition. And ask yourself these 4 questions. Or actually 3. I learned this method a while ago. To really think on if your thought is true and if it's sometimes you might not know what you're listening to, intuition or thought. And make sure wherever you're listening to this, Apple Podcast, Spotify, follow this podcast. I'll be diving deeper into all these things, and I really encourage you to go on YouTube and watch if you're Safe Space ASMR podcast, I will be diving deep into all of this, all of it. But ask yourself, when you have the thought, is this true? Give yourself a moment to answer, and then say, but is this actually true? Like the thought. Give it a second. How would I feel if I was free